You probably know by now that a killer sales funnel is the secret sauce to a successful virtual summit. It's your most important tool to tell people about your summit, to convince them to subscribe, to communicate with them, and to lead them to any offer that you want to afterwards. I've talked a lot in the past about how to set up, manage, and run a virtual summit, but now it's time to really get that engine running. So let's dive in and create a step-by-step action plan to set up your virtual summit funnel. Welcome back to Renegade News. I'm your host, Glenn Kowalski. Every week on this channel, we discuss how entrepreneurs and other freedom lovers just like you can create cancel culture-proof businesses, create a bigger impact in their business and the world, and completely break free from the system. Virtual summits are great for exposure and for extending reach, which in theory leads to greater revenue later. But this means that you need to know how to manage this increased interest in your brand in order to maximize those profits. And there's no point to gaining a large following or seeing your email list skyrocket overnight if you're only going to sit on the new information and not do anything with the leads you've gained access to. You need to start selling to them. And if you follow the procedure correctly for creating a killer sales funnel, there's a way that you can keep on monetizing your event even after it's over for the first time. So let's start. First of all, you have to decide on your virtual summit strategy. From the very beginning, you need to decide on the way that participants are going to be guided through all of the pages that end up through your funnel and through your sales pages. So that means you have to think about how each page is going to look to the person at each stage of the process. And that's going to start from, the marketing emails that you send to your list and those pages for the registration with the click-throughs, all the way through to your registration forms, to any upgrade pages that you have throughout your funnel, as well as any special offers that you provide at the event and even after the event. You should also ensure that the pages always offer an opportunity for users to purchase upgrades so that you don't miss out on an opportunity on potential sales along the way or leave money on the table. You have to take special note at which point the participants are choosing to take up each of the offers as you're testing. So whether that's immediately after registering, during the event, or maybe even after it's finished. All of those things have to be tested and planned in advance. At each stage of the way, you can also offer different time-limited offers. For example, you can give 50% off the purchase of an all-access pass if they buy within 24 hours of ordering, or maybe immediately after ordering. And then you can slowly bring that percentage down as time goes on. We've done promotions in the past where every 3 days or so, the price actually goes up. So all the early bird registrations get the best price, and then the price goes up throughout the pre-event stage and then goes to full price on the day of the event. This we found to be really powerful. But you also have to bear in mind that all of your pages about the summit have to have one goal in mind, and that's to give the person the opportunity to be redirected to your sales page or to your offers, whatever that might be, whether that's just the all access pass, or whether that's your high ticket offers, whether it's add-ons to the event. You want to go through all the pages and the emails of your virtual summit and make sure that there's always a URL that they can click to, which brings them back to that sales page. Next, you want to make sure that you're putting your special offers in the right place. And a good place to put a time-limited special offer is right on your registration page. And that's the main doorway, the main way into your virtual summit. And every attendee has to go through that page, so it's a great place for these types of upsells. Now, if they're interested in joining your summit, it is at this stage they are most likely to make a key decision to upgrade, particularly if they see a special offer there. Now, once they've registered and they leave this page, it's really a lot less likely that they'll make the decision to upgrade. Although it is still possible later, and you absolutely want to make sure that you are making those offers available to them later as well. But as you probably know, if you've been in sales and marketing for any amount of time, there's definitely something to be said for catching people's interest early on and keeping that momentum going and keeping that serotonin flowing, as we talk about in sales and marketing. And since all the participants have to go through that registration page, that's definitely the place where you should focus your sales efforts, that front end, that immediate funnel as they're going through the registration. Now, obviously not just any page is going to sell, so you have to make sure that you're doing it right. And since all of the redirects are going to come right to your sales page, you need to make sure that that page itself is enticing enough for each user to want to follow through with their purchase. You want to think about where each user is redirected from, where they're coming from. Are they coming from Facebook ads? Are they coming from referrals from your speakers? And you also have to think about what stage of the process they are. Do they know who you are? Do they know that what you offer? You want to make sure that none of the information is superfluous and that it's directed at the person based on where they are in your sales process. It's also possible to set up different pages for different offers and discounts. And those should be accessed via a redirect from a link somewhere else in your virtual summit pages or in your email. So for example, let's say you have a certain amount of traffic that's coming from cold ads. Those cold ads could redirect to one registration page that gives more information. If it's an email going directly to your list, maybe they want something different. Maybe they want to see your face because they know you. Maybe they don't need quite as much information before they register, especially if it's a free event. Even if it's a paid event, they're going to know you better. Coming from the speakers, maybe something else you'll want to do there is look at something different if the traffic's coming from the speakers. Now, obviously, you can get really complicated there and go all out on different sales pages for different sources of traffic. And if you have the resources to do that, that's great. Otherwise, you just have to make sure it's the best general page, giving the exact amount of information that you need without going overboard. The other thing to keep in mind is that no matter how the user has been redirected to your sales page, you need to make sure that that sales page communicates the value of upgrading and then completing their purchase. One of the tools that we've used for this is called Deadline Funnel, and you can create urgency and offer registrations with a limited time offer with a timer. Now, Deadline Funnel works a little bit different than many of these software tools that do a timer. Sometimes you want those extra features, other times you need it. But the big key feature is you want to have a timer that gives incentives for moving quickly. And one of the advantages with Deadline Funnel is it can give you links where those countdown timers can only be used once. It can also give everybody their own individual countdown timer, which is a really nice feature. But either way, having that countdown timer is going to drive sales because urgency drives sales. We already know that because of this fear of missing out factor that users are going to have on your page. If they see that the price is going to be going up when a countdown expires, they're more likely to move forward. And we found countdown timers to be extremely powerful on our events, on all of our funnels, in fact. And you can set different deadlines for different people, like I said earlier, with Deadline Funnel. So you can say, but if somebody hits the page tomorrow, they have 48 hours from that date. So that's one of the features that Deadline Funnels gives you that most of the other timers don't. But that's not something that you need to really go down the road. As long as you have some kind of timer that does a countdown, you can have a short-term timer that goes just when you land on the page, like say maybe for 15 minutes. And yes, if somebody comes back to that page, if you're not using a tool like Deadline Funnel, that's going to reset, but that may not matter. That's something you have to look at yourself. But that is one of the things to look at with a tool like Deadline Funnel is if somebody comes today and they have 48 hours for this price, somebody who comes in tomorrow is also going to have 48 hours from the time that they actually come in. And that is super powerful. It can be a little misleading in my opinion. So you have to be really careful on how you're using it. And if there's a good reason for it, it's fine. You know, like we want to reward fast action takers. You have 48 hours, then it doesn't matter when they come in, they still have 48 hours. And that is definitely a super powerful tool. Another tool that you can use with countdown timers is you can actually put them in your email. And if you have a set date, there's plenty of different timers you can set a set date with a countdown timer within an email. With Deadline Funnels, you have that same feature where each person can have their own individual countdown timer. And that is pretty cool, admittedly. And like I said, we use Deadline Funnel for a long time. We've stopped and we've started working with other timers that have similar features as well. Thrive Ultimatum is another one that's really good. That's the one we happen to be using right now. And then there's, like I said, lots of timers out there that don't have those sort of individualized features. But again, with a lot of events, since events are generally on a specific date, I find just a typical, very simple timer will do the job because you can just have a date set for everybody. So 3 days before the event, you're one price. 1 day before the event, you're another price. And everybody gets that same date. It makes things much simpler on your half. There's nothing that could be seen as sort of deceptive about it. It just makes sense that you have those types of timers. Anyway, you want to also provide offers and sales redirects during the summit. And this is really powerful because at that point, people are talking to you and people are engaged in the summit. So having offers available there can be your best sales tool. And you can even encourage people to upgrade their passes during the summit. For example, as you're speaking, say, hey, look, you can still get in and get lifetime access to the All Access Pass. So you want to make sure that you're making those types of offers for your summit as well. And in a lot of ways that makes sense because for some people, they're going to be wary to buy that pass for an event before they've witnessed some of the quality of the event. So once they've been there, they've seen a couple of quality speakers And if they are quality, they're much more likely to upgrade at that time than they were before the event. Even if you offer a guarantee, some people are going to be hesitant to spend money when they don't know if they're going to like the content of the summit. And that just makes sense. But at each step of the summit, particularly after each presentation, you really should be looking for ways to promote sales and to redirect attendees to those sales pages, whether that's for your All Access Pass, whether that's for your high ticket or your coaching programs, whatever that program is. If you can see those offers throughout the event, you're going to find that you're much more effective in your sales process. And that's also a great opportunity to put a limited time offer in to just sort of move up that urgency of taking the sale. Like until the end of the summit, you could have a specific price for a coaching program, a high ticket coaching program, for example. That price could go up after the event. Another thing that you should think about doing to promote through the event is to send out emails during the summit. You know, especially with a virtual summit, people are sitting at their computers anyway. They're looking at their emails. So being able to send them emails during that summit is a good way to make some sales. And those emails don't have to be specifically about sales. They could be about extra content. They could be about what's coming up later in the summit. It could be about more advanced details about a summit speaker that's just spoken. There's all sorts of things that you can put for content that comes across as valuable, and it is valuable for your attendees. But then at the bottom of the email, just add a special link where they can gain access to that presentation again, where they can watch that and upgrade their pass to an All Access Pass, or into a coaching program, for example, that goes deeper into whatever the topic of that talk was that you're selling. In addition, there are several other ways that you can monetize your virtual summit while it's going on, as well as when it's in the run-up phase before the event. You can continue to make money from the same summit once it's over in the steps that I'm going to talk about right now. And that's making your summit evergreen. Now, once the summit is over, this is probably one of the best opportunities that you have for monetizing it. And with a very few tweaks to the sales pages that you've already created, you can keep on selling that event over and over again throughout the year. First of all, you'll need to change your landing page, obviously, once the summit's ended. You're not going to give a date anymore unless you're using some kind of a dynamic date to keep it evergreen all the time. But if it's going to be just a straight replay, you won't have a date anymore. Now you're just selling replays of the summit. And instead of directing users to buy tickets to the summit on that specific date, you're changing the page so that users can experience the content of the virtual summit at any time. You want to open up that registration and allow people to register throughout the year. And then you want to change your landing page so that it no longer mentions that date, but instead lets them know that these are replays and that they can access that summit anytime that they want as soon as they register. So they don't have to wait for it coming. As soon as they send in their payment, they have access. You can also do something that's a little bit more evergreen, and that's set up like a regular weekly release date, for example, and ask users to be ready at a certain time. And that way it acts like a live event. All of your dates are set up like a live event. And this is somewhere where you'll probably need a tool like Deadline Funnel or Thrive Ultimatum again to make this work. But you can make it look like a live event that's starting in 7 days, for example. And regardless of what day they sign up, in 7 days, that's when the summit actually goes live. So that is another option to keep your summit evergreen and going all year round. Most people, I think, are now sophisticated enough to know that an event isn't live. So I don't like the idea of trying to pretend that it's a live event. I think it's much better to be just upfront and honest about it right off the bat and to be clear about that. Like I said, most people have been through the evergreen webinars, the evergreen summits that the people have been doing, and they try to fool people into thinking that it's live when it's not. And maybe there's a few people you fool, and maybe it's because I'm in this industry that I'm not getting fooled and I notice these right away. But to me, it just seems so much more honest to just say, hey, look, we're releasing this. You can view it the moment you sign up. These are just replays. Or you could do, even if you want to do it a similar sort of process, you can say, hey, we're reopening this up for 4 days for free, just like we did when this was live. You get to watch it 4 days free, and then you can sell your All Access Pass from that. That's another way of doing it, and just being completely honest and upfront about it. Because if you try to fool people, you're not fooling anybody. One thing to keep in mind though, as you're doing this, so whether you choose to do it just as a replay or you choose to do a evergreen sort of launch schedule or a pretend that it's live type event, regardless of what you do, make sure that you're going through the rest of your funnel pages and you're looking at any redirects, and make sure that the date's either been omitted or it matches, because otherwise it's going to get confusing for the guests. And like I said earlier, that's one of those things that makes it so obvious, especially if you're trying to pretend that it's a live event. It's going to make it really obvious if all of a sudden a date doesn't match. And I have seen this happen many times. So just make sure everything's consistent after you make those changes. So once you go from your live event to your evergreen version, whatever that evergreen version happens to be, whether it's straight replays, a repeated launch, an ongoing perpetual launch, whatever that is. Just make sure that everything's consistent all the way through. Make sure that your pop-ups, your notifications, your registration forms, and everything else has been changed and modified. And also make sure that any of your countdown timers are removed or are updated with the updated information that implies exactly how and when the attendees are going to be able to access that virtual summit information, the replays, the summit itself, whatever that is. And however you want to give them access, just make sure that you're removing all the traces of that original time and date, because otherwise that gets to be confusing. Once you've done that, review all of the other links from your other pages and make sure that they're all still relevant. Make sure that anything that mentions a date matches this new evergreen process that you're using. You're also going to want to ensure that your meta description for any of your pages doesn't show any erroneous information for the Google searches, because Google's going to look through there. And if you have a meta tag information with a date, that's going to show up wrong as well. So if you follow all those above steps, then you're going to have a clear path to monetize your virtual summit from the start right to the end. And you can use this sales funnel strategy throughout. Designing a clear sales funnel is an extremely vital part of organizing your virtual summit. So you want to make sure that you don't miss anything and you think the process through before you start. And if you do successfully manage that sales funnel, your virtual summit could turn into an evergreen source of profits for you that's going to go on and on well after the event ends. Like I said, I personally love doing a new launch of every maybe 6 months. So if you have a virtual summit, just relaunch it again in 6 months if the information is still vital, or just doing it as straight replays and just saying, hey, these replays are available, the information's still valid, take part of it now. And also having the funnel include your high ticket or your other coaching programs or your other courses becomes super powerful. But virtual summits are really only one part of making a bigger impact, especially in this cancel culture-proof world. So you really want to visit and subscribe to Renegade News right now. Every Friday at noon, we go live for Renegade News Live, where we talk about things like freedom of speech, cancel culture, making a bigger impact, Web 3.0, cryptocurrency, how to take your business into the future and make it a business that you truly own and that nobody can ever take away from you, which is my mission. My mission is to help as many experts and influencers who are sharing the missions that I agree with, help them to get their vision and their mission and their message to the world so that they can make the world a better place. That's why I'm here. That's why we created Renegade News. Check out the video you see on the screen right now. That's going to be another topic on virtual summits in this case, but we talk about so much more. Go there right now, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.